Hello and welcome, I'm Six Path Weeb. Today, we embark on the third part of a thought-provoking journey into an alternate reality. What if Naruko abandoned Konoha? Imagine a world where one of the most pivotal figures in the village chooses a path entirely different from what we know. How would the bonds of friendship, the responsibilities of a ninja, and the very fate of Konoha be altered? In this fanfic series, we explore not just the actions of a single individual, but the rippling consequences of choice, loyalty, and identity. Before we dive in, a brief disclaimer: all content on this channel is intended purely for discussion and entertainment. I do not own any of the anime footage or characters used. All rights and credits belong to their respective creators and copyright holders. Join me as we analyze, imagine, and discuss a Konoha that might have been, seen through the eyes of Naruko. Let's begin. It was early in the morning, the sun had barely begun rising, when they found themselves at the Great Naruko Bridge. It was just as big as Naruko remembered. As they walked down the bridge toward Tazuna's house, they listened as Naruko discussed the plans. "Okay, this is how it works," she said cheerfully. "We'll arrive at Tazuna-san's house shortly, then grab a bite to eat. Right after that, we'll have a strategy meeting where Shikamaru will help us plan our travel and our tactics. Once that's done, we'll rest for a few hours. By midday we'll leave again, and Shikamaru will decide our route. Uro-sennin has a toad summon dedicated to helping us stay informed. Any questions?" The silence that followed was enough for Naruko, so she continued walking over the bridge. Hinata was impressed that a bridge so significant was named after her friend. She still remembered the first time she came here and learned about Naruko's story. It had been on a mission. They needed to take a boat from the land of waves to a small island, and it was there that Kurenai-sensei told them the story she had heard from Sakura-san. Naruko had bravely faced Haku, the missing nin, and had inspired the village to stand strong and courageous. The story had made Hinata's admiration for Naruko grow even stronger. Before she could get lost in her thoughts, everyone stopped. They were in front of a simple-looking house overlooking the water. Naruko knocked on the door, and a young man answered. When he saw her, he laughed and smiled before giving her a warm hug. He then called for everyone to come inside. They sat in the main room where an old man was perched on a padded chair. His goatee was white, and his glasses were thick. He munched on a dengo before noticing Naruko and her team. He smiled broadly and called out, "Come here, shinobi, and have a seat near me." Everyone sat close, and Naruko began, "It's been a long time, hasn't it? Tazuna-san? Oh, it's Naruko. It's wonderful to see you again. The last time I saw you was 3 years ago with that friend," Tazuna said, chuckling. "Ha ha," Naruko laughed. "Yeah, Uro-sennin isn't here. I'm with a team on a mission to handle some trouble we talked about last time." "Akatsuki?" asked Tazuna. "Yeah," replied Naruko. "We'll just use your house for a bit before we leave." "No worries," reassured Tazuna. "We'll have some food ready in no time." With that, he grabbed his cane and made his way to the kitchen where his grandson and daughter were. Naruko leaned against the wall and turned to the rest of the team. "Okay, now that's settled, Shikamaru can explain our game plan." Shikamaru pulled out a long white scroll. He opened it and dipped his brush in ink. After a few hand signs, the brush began to glow. He then began drawing while explaining. "All right, team, we have 6 members. Hinata will be our medic and won't engage in combat. Her job is to keep everyone healthy. She'll use Moigi's healing jutsu after this meeting. That leaves 5 of us for the mission. I'll take on one opponent alone, while the others split into pairs for the remaining challenges. If anyone falls, Hinata steps in to help. If I fall, Konohamaru will take my place. Based on intel from Jiraiya-sama, the enemies move individually, which gives us an advantage. Our formation will have Shino in the front with his bugs as sentries. Kakashi, Hinata, and I stay in the rear. Naruko and Konohamaru will flank Hinata so she can use her Byakugan to watch our surroundings. Remember, Hinata's safety is our priority. Without her, the mission can't succeed." Shikamaru let out a deep breath as he finished. The room felt serious, and before anyone could speak, Tazuna's family entered with food for them. Most of the meal passed in quiet, except for small bursts of conversation. Konohamaru spoke softly with Inari, while Kakashi entertained Tsunami with stories of Konoha. Shino fed his bugs, and Shikamaru discussed strategies with Naruko. Once everyone had eaten, Hinata spoke up. "Ano, I think it's time for Moigi-san's healing jutsu. It won't take long," she said. The 5 of them followed her back to the living room. Konohamaru said, "We need to take off our shirts. The kanji goes on our backs." Understood, Hinata replied. She carefully painted each seal, moving from Konohamaru to Shino, Shikamaru, Kakashi, and finally Naruko. When she reached Naruko, she paused slightly, noticing an old, curved scar on her back. Naruko's past battles had left it, a reminder of her courage. Hinata gently finished the seal, then made the hand signs. After 15 signs, she said, "Hidden healing technique, healing palm of life." All the kanji glowed green before fading away. Everyone thanked Hinata and put their shirts and cloaks back on. "All right everyone, get some rest. We leave in 3 hours," Naruko said. She headed into one of the guest rooms, and one by one, the team went to their own rooms. Hinata checked her healing connections before settling down for a short nap. Close to 3 hours had passed as Naruko finished her meditation and prepared her gear for the mission. She stretched and glanced around her room, thinking about letting the others know she was ready. But then she realized it might be better to let them prepare at their own pace, rushing them could lead to mistakes. As she walked past the rooms, a soft voice called out. Naruko, can I speak to you for a second?" She turned and saw Hinata standing in the guest room, holding a small bag nervously. Naruko smiled and walked in, sitting down across from her. Hinata always seems a little nervous, Naruko thought, though that was part of her charm. Hinata reached into her bag and pulled out a delicate white scarf, stitched with a unique kanji. "Ano. This is a gift for you," she said softly, holding it out. Naruko took the scarf and examined it. It felt smooth and comforting, yet somehow special. "Where did you get this?" she asked, curiosity sparkling in her eyes. "I made it myself," Hinata replied, her cheeks pink. "It's a chakra scarf I designed." "A chakra scarf?" Naruko tilted her head. "Yes," Hinata explained. "It can store chakra for emergencies. All you do is place your hand on the seal and pour chakra into it. The scarf changes colors when it's full. I thought you might find it useful." Naruko's eyes widened. This was a high-level jutsu few could manage. She placed her hand over the kanji and let a gentle stream of her chakra flow into it. Slowly, the scarf shifted from pure white to a warm, glowing orange. Hinata blinked in surprise. "Wow! You did it so easily. The last person who filled a scarf like this almost wore themselves out." "Thank you, Hinata," Naruko said sincerely, wrapping the scarf around her neck. She left a tail of it trailing in front and behind. "This is amazing. You're incredible." Moved by gratitude, Naruko leaned forward and hugged Hinata. She smelled faintly of flowers and honey. Hinata froze for a moment, but then hugged her back warmly. Just as they separated, Konohamaru walked in, grinning. "We should leave soon," he said, eyes flicking to the scarf. "Jiraiya-sama sent a toad with news, there's something unusual nearby." Naruko nodded, feeling a gentle warmth at the compliment hidden in his glance. She tucked away the thought and focused on the mission. Adventure always came first, but seeing Hinata had reminded her of something important: hope, friendship, and the promise of a bright future. She grabbed her gear and stepped outside, where everyone, including Tazuna-san, was waiting. "Well, I understand you must leave, Naruko, but come by when you're not on a mission," grumbled Tazuna. Naruko smiled and hugged the elderly man. "Thank you for everything. Your help means a lot to me and to Konoha." Everyone expressed their gratitude before setting off. As they walked across the bridge, Shikamaru's brow furrowed. Something didn't feel right. Naruko noticed and silently nodded, putting on her goggles. She raised her hand, signaling everyone to stop. Immediately, the team formed a protective circle around Hinata. Shino's insects began moving cautiously, while Hinata activated her Byakugan, scanning the surroundings. The wind rustled gently, and then a voice echoed across the bridge. "It's been a long time, eh, Naruko?" They all turned and saw 3 figures standing ahead, strangers with unusual markings, smiling mischievously. Naruko tightened her scarf, feeling a spark of determination. Whatever this new challenge was, she knew she wouldn't face it alone. Together with her friends, she could meet anything with courage, cleverness, and a warm heart. There was a tense stillness on the bridge. All 9 shinobi stood quietly, each one brimming with anticipation. Deidara broke the silence first. "So Naruko, it seems like you've made some friends to play with," he said with a mischievous grin. Naruko, calm and confident, tilted her head. "I'm not surprised to see you 3 here. I was hoping for a real challenge, but I guess we'll manage," she said, her eyes sparkling with determination. Hidan scowled. "I swear, this time I'll show you my skills." "Calm yourself," said Sasori, his voice measured. We'll all take our turns fairly. Naruko narrowed her eyes. She knew that Pain wouldn't send only these three if he didn't want them to test her team. Something was different, and she could feel it. Turning to her friends, she said, "Be careful. They've prepared something special." Hinata immediately sat down cross-legged and pressed her palms together. With a graceful series of hand movements, she whispered, "Kasei Jutsu, Chiyu no Seiketsu, the healing palm of life." Warm light spread from her hands, gently enveloping her friends. Konohamaru and Shikamaru immediately moved in sync, ready to distract Hidan and protect their healer. Meanwhile, Deidara leapt from the bridge and landed on his flying clay bird, preparing to call for backup. But before he could, Kakashi and Shino swooped in from above. Their wings shimmered in the sunlight, a clever creation made from Shino's tiny, glowing bugs. Naruko barely had time to admire their creativity before Sasori began his own clever attack. Dash! Konohamaru and Shikamaru vs. Hidan. Konohamaru darted left and right, dodging Hidan's unpredictable moves. Hidan tried to surprise him, but Konohamaru was agile and clever. He knew he had to keep Hidan busy so Shikamaru could think of a plan. Suddenly, Hidan launched a surprising move. Konohamaru braced himself, but to his relief, an invisible shield appeared, bouncing Hidan back harmlessly. Konohamaru grinned and, with a burst of chakra-powered energy, lightly nudged Hidan away. Hidan stumbled, blinking in surprise. From behind them, Hinata's gentle smile gave Konohamaru the encouragement he needed. With a nod, he readied himself for the next round of creative thinking. Hidan was frustrated. His usual tricks weren't working, and Konohamaru's clever moves were making him rethink his approach. But before he could recover, Konohamaru summoned Monkey King Enma with a cloud of smoke. Enma's white fur shimmered, and his eyes glinted with intelligence. "I know these creatures," Enma said. "Each one has a unique talent. We need to use our own cleverness to help them, or they'll combine into something tricky." Konohamaru took a deep breath and held his staff firmly. With a twirl and a leap, he guided the mischievous ghouls away from his friends, using clever tricks rather than harm. He combined wind and water elements to gently redirect them back into the river, where they dissolved harmlessly into sparkling droplets. Konohamaru jumped back onto the bridge and smiled. "Good job, everyone. They're just trying to have fun in their own way." The ghouls regrouped, playful and curious, but now Naruko could see a pattern. With teamwork, patience, and creativity, even the trickiest opponents could be guided safely. She turned to her team. "Let's show them how we play nicely," she said, and together they prepared to lead the creatures into a playful challenge, a bridge-wide obstacle course filled with floating platforms and sparkling lights. As Naruko leapt into action, she realized something important: even in challenges, a clever heart and a kind spirit could turn any test into a game, and any foe into a friend. Naruko's heart raced as she found herself cornered, the tricky shadow creatures moving all around her. She could feel her strength waning after trying to dodge so many of them at once. Just when she thought she couldn't go on, a gentle, cooling sensation spread across her back, and she felt her energy returning. She realized it was Hinata's healing touch, helping her recover quickly. Even with her renewed energy, she had to act fast. A shadow creature lunged toward her, but just as it got close, it froze in place. Looking down, Naruko noticed that its shadow was connected to another shadow stretching over the edge of the bridge below. A smile spread across her face. Shikamaru was helping. That meant they were close to finishing this tricky situation. Feeling brave, Naruko took a deep breath and added a swirl of wind to her chakra. With a swift, gentle push, she tapped the first shadow creature, and it burst into harmless sparkling dust that scattered in the breeze. Grabbing her staff, she counted, only 4 shadow creatures remained. She needed to outsmart them quickly. Luckily, Hidan, the mischievous troublemaker behind all this, couldn't move while Shikamaru's shadow trap held him. Naruko leapt forward, ready to confront the remaining shadows. But before she could reach them, they vanished in a puff of smoke. She looked around, eyes wide, and saw Hidan sneaking up behind Hinata, who was busy helping another friend. Time was short, but Naruko didn't panic. Just as Hidan got close, his movements froze. Shikamaru's clever plan had worked. "What is happening?" Hidan exclaimed, unable to move. Shikamaru stepped out from the shadows and explained, "Shadow binding technique, success. I needed some time to set the trap. Your tricks won't work this time." Naruko grinned. "Don't worry, Shikamaru. We've got him now." Shikamaru led Hidan to the edge of the bridge. With a wave of his hand, Hidan's tricky tool flew harmlessly into the water below. Shikamaru then used a special scroll to create a swirling funnel in the river. The two of them landed safely at the bottom, where magical vines and glowing ribbons wrapped around Hidan, holding him gently in place. "I won't let you get away," Hidan exclaimed, wriggling in surprise. Shikamaru calmly adjusted the ground beneath them, creating a safe abyss where Hidan couldn't escape. With the trap secure, he released the vines. Hidan flailed for a moment, then finally stopped, realizing he couldn't continue causing trouble. Naruko hopped down beside Shikamaru and tapped her staff, which caused the abyss to vanish as if it had never been there. They both leapt back onto the bridge, where the water had returned to its calm, sparkling state. Hidan was contained safely and couldn't cause any more mischief. The two friends shared a fist bump, laughing with relief. "That was trickier than I thought," Naruko said. Shikamaru smiled. "But we did it together. Konoha is safe for now." Even Hinata, who had been helping others, caught her breath with a small smile. There was no time to rest, though. They still needed to check on their teammates and make sure everyone was safe. But with teamwork, clever thinking, and a little bit of magic, Naruko knew they could handle anything. Naruko and the Sky Adventure. High above the village, Naruko zipped through the clouds with a grin on her face. She was on a mission to test her newest creations, tiny clay birds that could flap their wings and zoom around just like real ones. She loved crafting things that could move and dance in the air, and today she had made 4 of them, all ready for a sky chase game. Below her, 2 of her friends, Kakashi and Shino, were grinning and getting ready to play their part. Kakashi had his clever eye gear that let him see tricky things from far away, while Shino had invented little bug-winged wings for both of them so they could swoop and dodge around Naruko's flying clay birds. "Ready or not, here I come," Naruko called, flinging her clay birds into the air. They twirled and spun, darting toward her friends with playful chirps. Kakashi laughed, "We need to catch those birds before Naruko's birds reach the trees." "Don't worry," Shino said, adjusting his bug wings. "I have a plan." Naruko twisted in the air, laughing. She loved how clever her friends were. Every time she sent a bird toward them, they danced around it like it was a puzzle. Her wings carried her higher and higher, spinning like a kite in the breeze. Just as she thought she had them cornered, Kakashi and Shino worked together in perfect timing. Kakashi swooped from above while Shino twirled his wings to block her clay birds. Naruko had to think quickly. She clutched more clay and molded 4 playful batons, each one sparkling with little colors. They zipped out of her hands and spun through the air, twirling like ribbons. Shino's bug wings glimmered in the sun, and Kakashi's sharp eye gear tracked every movement. But Naruko was clever too. She twisted and turned, sending her clay creations weaving through the sky. It became a beautiful dance of friendship, with colors and wings and laughter everywhere. Suddenly, a gentle wind carried Naruko's birds in all directions, making the chase even trickier. Kakashi blinked. "She's really clever." Naruko giggled, dodging through the clouds. "You have to be faster than that if you want to catch me." Her friends worked together, zooming and twirling, and Naruko realized something wonderful. This wasn't just a game. The more she played with Kakashi and Shino, the more she learned to think fast, move gracefully, and make her clay creations dance in new ways. Finally, Naruko landed softly on a wide, sunny cloud, and her friends floated down beside her. "You're amazing," Kakashi said, smiling beneath his mask. "You too," Naruko said, beaming. "Next time, I'll make birds that sparkle in rainbow colors." Shino nodded, "And we'll make wings that shimmer like the stars." The 3 friends laughed together, surrounded by the soft clouds and their playful, whirling creations. For Naruko, the adventure wasn't about winning, it was about flying high, thinking creatively, and sharing the joy of imagination with friends. And in that moment, the sky felt like their playground, endless and full of possibilities. Naruko blinked as she looked down at her legs, now covered in shimmering, tiny glowing insects that clung to the water beneath her feet like little stars trapped in a puddle. She could feel her energy gently seeping away, as if the bugs were sipping a bit of her power, but she was determined not to panic. Beside her, her friend Shino, a quiet boy with a deep connection to nature, raised his hand. Suddenly, a swarm of friendly bugs poured from him, buzzing and swirling around Naruko. They weren't mean, they were guiding her, nudging her toward a solution, but she had to act quickly. Naruko bent down, trying to pick up a lump of clay from the ground, hoping to use it to make something magical. But when she tried, the little clay mouths on her hands were blocked by the sparkling bugs. She gasped. "This is trickier than I thought," she muttered, her heart racing. The swirling magic around her began to twist into a vortex, pulling at the water and the bugs, pulling at her too. The sensation was strange and dizzying, like standing on a merry-go-round that spun too fast. Naruko looked at her left hand, the bugs there had dispersed. Quickly, she scooped up some clay and shaped it into a tiny, cheerful owl. The clay owl immediately started to float toward the swirling vortex, twirling and spinning as if it were dancing in the air. "Come on, little owl," Naruko whispered, forming a series of hand signs. "Fly." With a bright burst of light, the owl leapt forward and collided with the vortex, sending ripples through it. The spinning slowed, and the water beneath her feet calmed. She breathed deeply, realizing she had escaped the worst of it. Shino, though smiling, looked tired. "Naruko. That was amazing," he said. "Most magic tricks only affect the mind, but this one touches both body and spirit. The bugs were just the beginning, they were helping guide your energy safely. If you hadn't acted quickly, you could have been, well, stuck there for a long while." Naruko blinked, noticing tiny glowing footprints where the bugs had crawled near her eye. "Oh. They tickled me. But I'm okay," she laughed, shaking off the strange tingling sensation. Deidara, who had been watching from across the water, puffed up his chest and smiled mischievously. "You think you've won? Maybe this time, but I have one more trick. My greatest creation is ready." Naruko tilted her head, eyes wide but sparkling with curiosity. "A challenge?" she asked. "All right. Let's see it." Deidara gathered a massive ball of clay, feeding it to a little mouth in his chest. The clay glowed and shimmered as his body began to hum like a tiny, magical bell. Naruko felt a thrill of excitement, the kind she got when she solved puzzles or discovered something new. This was going to be a big, dazzling show, but she wasn't afraid. She knew she could handle it. Shino and Naruko exchanged a glance, both of them exhausted but determined. Together, they stepped forward, ready to face whatever playful magic Deidara had conjured. Naruko smiled, taking a deep breath. "This is going to be fun," she said. And with a sparkle in her eyes, she leapt toward the swirling magic, hand outstretched, ready to turn whatever came her way into a new, amazing adventure. The water shimmered, the bugs danced in the air, and the clay began to glow in response to Naruko's energy. Whatever came next, it was certain to be spectacular, and Naruko was ready to turn it into art. Boom! Kakashi closed his eyes, feeling a flutter of worry in his chest. He wished he could have done more for Naruko. He stayed still as the bright, warm light surrounded both him and Shino. The light shimmered over the water like a rainbow, and tiny splashes danced as the waves rippled outward. Even the birds hovering nearby flapped in surprise before settling back onto branches, curious about the glow below. Slowly, the steam lifted, revealing a gentle, aqua-colored cube hovering above the water. Inside, Kakashi and Shino blinked in relief. They were safe. Shino let out a small laugh. "It seems that Hinata-san has saved us with her shield. We really owe her." Kakashi nodded, helping Shino to his feet. Just as they began to move forward, Shikamaru and Konohamaru arrived, their clothes a little damp and ruffled, but smiling. "We were going to come help you," Konohamaru said, grinning, "but it looks like you two had everything under control." Shino chuckled softly as Shikamaru steadied him. Kakashi asked, "How is Naruko doing?" Shikamaru replied calmly, "Hinata told us to come get you and said Naruko is safe. She had her Byakugan on, so we knew exactly where everyone was." Kakashi nodded thoughtfully. That explained it, Hinata's keen eyes had guided them all from afar. They reached the bridge in a few minutes, where they saw Hinata leaning gently against the railing, her legs stretched out in front of her. At first, it looked like she was asleep, but as they approached, they realized she was awake, just very, very tired. When Hinata spotted them, her eyes brightened. "Thank goodness. I was so worried my technique wouldn't be fast enough," she murmured, letting her eyelids fall as she sank into a soft, peaceful sleep. "Thank you, Hinata," they whispered, grateful. They gathered around her, sitting quietly and resting, waiting for Naruko to appear. Soon, the sound of joyful laughter carried over the bridge. Naruko came bounding toward them, her bright eyes sparkling like sunlight on water. "I'm okay. I knew you'd all be here," she called, her voice full of excitement. Her friends cheered and welcomed her with smiles, happy that everyone was safe. Together, they watched the sky turn soft shades of pink and gold as the sun began to set, knowing that friendship, courage, and kindness had carried them through. And in that warm, peaceful moment, they all felt a little stronger, a little braver, and a lot more connected. Naruko versus Sasori. Naruko was calm. She wasn't worried at all. Around her, The village ninja were busy managing small skirmishes. Konohamaru was guiding some younger shinobi in a clever training exercise, while Kakashi and Shino were helping others safely navigate tricky terrain. Of all the challenges she faced that day, Naruko felt this one would be the most fun. She observed Sasori's movements carefully. From her time in Suna, she had learned that Sasori wasn't really controlling everything with his own hands, he was inside a puppet called Hiruko. Naruko studied it closely. Hiruko had a long, scorpion-like tail, coming out of a demon-like mask on its back. Naruko noticed the tail and the puppet's arms were designed to make it tricky to approach, but she didn't feel scared. She loved puzzles and challenges, and this was just another puzzle to solve. As Hiruko's arms swiveled and twisted, Naruko formed a hand sign and shouted, "Shadow clone technique." 6 playful copies of herself appeared, each giggling as they sprang forward. They danced around Hiruko, dodging its tricky arms and tail with careful steps. Just when they were very close, the puppet spun its tail, but Naruko was ready. "Not bad, but you'll have to be quicker than that," she said with a confident grin. Then, focusing all her energy, she formed a glowing, swirling sphere in her hands. "Rasengan," she called, gently guiding it to tap the puppet, not to hurt it but to knock it off balance. The puppet wobbled, and Sasori had to step out to steady it. Standing before Sasori now were 5 Narukos, 1 real and 4 playful copies. All of them were smirking. "You have no idea who you're dealing with," the real Naruko said. "And don't worry, I'm not here to hurt you. But we do need to finish this challenge." Sasori wasn't pleased. He summoned another puppet, bigger this time, wearing a gray cloak with a long arm that stretched out like a claw. Naruko's clones giggled and twirled around it, carefully guiding themselves to avoid the puppet's moves. The new puppet released a block of iron sand to block one of the clones. Quick thinking as ever, one clone touched the sand and used her chakra to turn it into a sparkling sheet of glass. "Impossible," Sasori exclaimed in surprise. The Naruko clone had transformed a dangerous block into something beautiful without anyone getting hurt. "See?" Naruko said, watching her clones finish their playful dance around the puppet. "We don't need to fight to win. With creativity and teamwork, anything can be solved." The real Naruko sat on the bridge, smiling. "Sasori, you may have clever puppets, but cleverness and kindness together can always find a solution. That's the true strength of a ninja." She remembered her friend Gaara and the tough times they had gone through together. Years ago, Gaara had lost his brother Kankuro, who had bravely protected their village. Naruko remembered how determined Gaara had been to protect his people, even when it was hard. She had promised him that she would help bring justice, not through anger, but through smart and caring action. 4 years ago, she whispered to herself, thinking back, "I promised I'd make sure no one would have to hurt anyone else if I could help it." And today, I keep that promise, not with fighting, but with thinking, protecting, and caring. Naruko stood up, her clones fading into sparkling lights. Sasori looked at her, unsure what to do next. Naruko smiled warmly. "Come on," she said gently. "Let's solve this challenge together. No one needs to get hurt. Let's see who can be the cleverest, the fastest, and the kindest ninja today." And so, the bridge became a place of laughter, clever tricks, and teamwork, where even the fiercest challenges could turn into a fun game, all thanks to Naruko's courage, smarts, and kind heart. With that, Naruko turned and left, skipping lightly through the quiet streets of the village. She hummed a little tune, the sunlight glinting off her bright hair as she made her way toward the village gates. When she arrived, she noticed a tall man with white hair leaning against the gate wall, eyes closed as if meditating or taking a nap. "Let's go, Uro-sennin," Naruko called out cheerfully. The man stirred, smiling as he opened one eye. He gently ruffled Naruko's hair and gave a light tap on her shoulder. "Call me that one more time," he said, pretending to scold her, though his grin gave him away. Elsewhere, one of the village's clever puppet masters was in the midst of a tricky challenge. She was skilled, clever, and determined to finish her task, but sometimes even the best plans required a little patience and support. The puppet master carefully arranged her magical puppets, each one ready to perform its moves under her careful guidance. She smiled, thinking about the friends who had taught her how to control them so well. As she worked, one of the village children appeared in a swirl of leaves. Naruko had created a clone of herself to help observe the situation. This clone moved so silently and gracefully that it seemed as if the breeze itself had taken shape. Naruko's clone gently approached the puppet master, who paused and laughed. "Ah, a new friend. I see you've learned a very clever technique," she said. "You must be very patient to master it." The clone bowed, then vanished in a twirl of wind and light, reappearing beside the real Naruko. All clear. Everyone's doing wonderfully, she reported with a cheerful nod. Naruko looked around at her friends who had been training nearby. Hinata was quietly practicing her focus exercises, Shikamaru was sketching tactical patterns in the dirt, and Konohamaru was practicing acrobatics. They all looked up and waved when they saw Naruko approaching, tired but happy. Naruko smiled warmly. Looks like everyone finished their training for today. Great work. 2 months of practice and we'll all be even stronger together. Next, we'll train for the next adventure, and I know we can do it. She took a deep breath, feeling the soft wind and the warmth of her friends around her. Then she made 4 clones of herself, each one carrying one of her friends toward the dock. Naruko herself lifted Hinata gently onto her shoulder, and Hinata's quiet smile told her everything: friendship, trust, and joy all bundled into that one moment. Together, Naruko and her clones moved toward the waiting boat, ready to travel to Kumokagir. Their hearts were light, their spirits bright, and every laugh and smile made them stronger. Adventure awaited, but for now, friendship, teamwork, and fun were more than enough to carry them forward. Dear YouTube family, this wraps up this part of our journey. Stay tuned for what's coming next. Thank you for all your support. With love. 6 Path Weeb.